Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us. I'm Mike Berry from WASBO. Welcome to Transportation Tidbits, our sort of quarterly webinar from WASBO on all things transportation. We have got a packed room here of folks who are going to contribute to this webinar. We'll be on for a little under an hour, I suppose, and hope that you will pick up some good information and some stuff you can share with your team at your school district. I have a few little housekeeping, required announcements before we dive in. Today we are recording this webinar, and it will be posted on our website later in the week, and you can get that just by going to to logging into WASBO. If you have any questions during the webinar here this afternoon, you can raise your hand using that little reactions tab on the bottom of your screen. You might have to hover over it to get it to show up. You know how that works. And Caitlin and maybe some of the other talented WASBO staff in the background will be monitoring the webinar and see if we can squeeze your question in if we have a moment. Although we've got a lot of content, so if we don't get to you, maybe we can take it offline. So there's a chat section that you can use, and there's a Q&A section you can use. Let's talk chat here for a minute. Here's my challenge to you all. We're going to give you a little quiz question here, and whoever gets the right answer and is first with the right answer in the chat, we will send you some amazing WASBO swag, which I'm actually modeling here this afternoon. So, okay, so here's the question. School bus, going home, afternoon, kids in the bus. Bus pulls up on the side of the road, stops, lights on, swings out the stop sign, and kids are exiting the bus. How far away must a car or cars stay from the bus during that process? What is the minimal amount of space you have to allow? So send in your answer. And again, whoever gets it right and gets it right first, it's going to be richly rewarded from the WASBO closet of goodies. Okay, so if you are not speaking, please have your microphone on mute so we don't pick up any background noise. And watch for an email from us if for like a little evaluation or feedback. So with that, let's do some introductions. All right. Caitlin from the Mighty Mighty WASBO team, you want to help us with this part?
I would, and then we'll give you all the answer to that little trivia question when we finish our introductions.
Not until somebody's answered it, though. We're not giving one away.
Right?
Right.
And just to note, happy National School Bus Safety Week. Thank you all for what you do for the safety of our students. Steve, would you like to kick us off with a quick intro?
Absolutely. My name is Steve. I've been driving for 7 years. When I applied for the job and told my wife, she said, "You told me you don't like kids." I said, "No, honey. I said I don't like my own kids, but I'm willing to try other kids."
Fabulous. Amanda, do you want to give us a quick intro?
Hi, I'm Amanda. I've been with Go Right Way for 9 years. I'm their senior terminal manager here in La Crosse.
Thank you. Jeff?
I'm Jeff Elson with the School District of La Crosse. Been with the district for 14 and doing transportation for 3 years.
Awesome. Mariah?
Hi, I'm Mariah. I am a bus driver for our special needs, and I've been here a year.
Wonderful. Jason?
Jason Bennard. I've been with Go Right Way here in La Crosse for 3 years. I'm one of the full-time drivers, and I drive multiple different routes, including Head Start and special needs and regular bus routes and coach routes. And so,
yeah. Thank you. Bob?
Bob Kramer, been with the Right Way for 6 years. And I didn't think I'd like it. I love it.
And Simon, are you able to unmute and just say hi and what you do at Cobeson?
I think I'm able to unmute. Is that all right? I am a regional manager for Cobeson. I've been with them for 18 years. Previously, I was with Right Way Leasing, so I've been in bus management for 26 years. I was asked today to replace Dan Cobeson, so I don't know if that means I have to change my vote for president and pretend that I'd like to live in the Fox Valley, but hopefully not.
No, sir.
All
Well,
right.
thank you all. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, hey, thank you for all those introductions. I was a school business official for about 33 years. Always enjoyed working with bus contractors, going all the way back to when there was something called Jelco. They're long gone, and Laidlaw and Oconomowoc Transport. And let's see, who else? Badger Bus and Cobeson, among others. So one of the first rules they teach school business managers and other administrators in schools is that, let's keep it simple first. We want the kids to be warm, safe, and dry. That's rule one. Keep the kids warm, safe, and dry. And getting the kids to and from school safely every day is a big part of that. Unlike Vegas, what happens on the bus doesn't stay on the bus. If kids get into a fight in the bus or they're mouthing off to each other, that comes right into the hallways, right into the classrooms, and really screws up instruction. On the other hand, if the kids have a nice, safe, pleasant, predictable ride, it really does set them up to learn. So if I leave this out, I want to say it now. Thank you for all the good work you guys do transporting kids. So, okay, this is kind of a structured Q&A. I'm your host and moderator, and you don't want to hear from me. You want to hear from the people who are actually driving. So I'm going to load up the questions, and then let's just have at it. So here we go. First question. As one of the first and last school staff members students see each day, how do you see your role in shaping their overall school experience? And I think we're going to start with Jason.
Yeah, Jason Bender from Go Right Way in La Crosse. I see my role as kind of being one of a big village. It takes a lot of different people to raise these children. It takes the parents, what happens at home, but then we're usually the first face that they see in the morning before they get to school. So, greeting them with a smile and a good morning or something positive that can kind of start them off. Elementary school kids are usually pretty excited, get up earlier, and then you get in middle school and high school, and those kids don't want to get up so early in the morning, and then they got to get on this cold, dark bus. And if you can send them, start their day off with some positivity, and like you said, if they have a positive experience on the bus, then hopefully that makes it a little easier for the teachers and the instructors in the school to have a positive experience from that point. And then at the end of the day also is greeting those kids again and saying, how was your day? And talking with some of them. And, sometimes they spend more time with us on the bus than they do with their own families. And just because of all the athletics and everything else after school activities that go on. But we all have to be in this for the good of the children and try and make it as good of an experience as possible for them.
Hey, I really appreciate that. That sounds like that's a veteran perspective. It's not just about the bus or about the route. It's ultimately about kids and connecting to learning, which is what we're doing this for in the first place. So thank you. Okay, I've got about 10 or 12 of these questions. So I'm going to just keep rolling. And then, there might be one or two that we dive in real deep. But let's get this going just to get everyone's voice in the room. So let's go on to what advice would you give to a new bus driver about connecting with kids and building positive relationships? Steve?
Well, when I started with Cobeson 7 years ago, I was very anxious or curious as to what age level I'd be assigned to. And I think as a test of fortitude, they gave me the junior high route.
Middle school.
That's my first route. Yep. So, I was driving and one of my most memorable occurrences was a young lady named Kiki. And she continued to use the F word. Young lady, 8th grader, using the F word. I was brand new to bus driving. I didn't really know protocol. But one day I stopped the bus, got out of my seat, went back, introduced myself, and I said, what's your name, young lady? She was very reluctant. She was reticent to even talk to me. And I said, could I just make you aware of something? That word offends me. Could you please not use that word on the bus? Mm-hmm. Well, long story short, I also serve lunches in the schools here in Sun Prairie. And on the bus, I never heard the word again. But in the lunchroom, every other word was the F word, but I didn't care at that point. That's a different environment. The thing I would advise about connecting with the students is names are golden. The more names you learn, the more you make eye contact in the morning. One of the things I do in the afternoon when the weather's nice, I stand outside my bus and I greet each student as they arrive. Rather than being in the seat where I normally am, I'm standing outside and I can have just a quick interaction with the students. And right now I have elementary and a high school. And in both cases, those simple little things help.
That's a great story, Steve. Yeah, what we tolerate, we encourage. My old high school coach used to say. So good for you for setting the standard, right? That's great stuff. And yeah, names, man, names are everything at that age. Let's go on. What types of training do you provide to bus drivers to help them build positive relationships with students? Amanda, you want to take this?
Yeah, of course. So in August, when we're getting our drivers back into the groove of things, we have the district come over and do PBIS training with our drivers. Kind of give them some information that they get from that they do training in the schools. And then we also have monthly safety meetings where we touch topics on that. If a driver mentions it, we'll touch the bases on it. And then if it comes to students with special needs, we like to set up meetings with the school and have the driver go over and meet with the caseworkers or the teachers and get some information from them on how to handle those specific behaviors as well too.
That's great. I often worry that, bus drivers who don't have good basic fundamental training on behavior, that we're kind of setting that bus driver up for failure. And that's not fair, because it's too much to expect that you know exactly how to handle everything from a student with special needs who's acting out as part of their disability versus just a sort of a middle schooler with a typical sour middle school attitude or whatever it might be. Those can be complicated, and if you don't come from an environment where you know how to diffuse situations and handle them properly, it's got to be tough. It's for the driver and for the kid as well. I've been around long enough to remember when we didn't do this kind of training. Bus drivers were just kind of thrown in there, and I think it's been a major improvement, major step forward for us as an industry. So thank you. I'm wondering, like, how many hours of training might that involve? Before, if it's a brand new driver, like let's.
Our brand new drivers do go through some when they're going through behind the wheel training. Our trainer will touch bases on certain type of behaviors for them to watch out to, different ways to react to it as well too. Obviously not screaming and hollering at the students because that's just going to get the bus riled up. Talk at their level, get down to their level if need be. Those are certain things that we definitely touch bases with our drivers on and mention to them on how to handle those type of situations.
That's great. Okay. Hey, Caitlin, did anybody in the chat figure out how far away the cars are supposed to stay when we got the lights on the siren and the stop sign out?
Lots of answers: 100 feet, 50 feet, 20 feet.
Well, we're going to let Bob answer this one. What's the correct answer, Bob?
20 feet.
20 feet. That's the Wisconsin state statute. So whoever it was that got that right first is our big winner. Thank you. Yeah, we'll go into the big WASBO closet and find something for you. All right, Mariah, I want to get you into this conversation. Do you feel you get enough training and support regarding children with disabilities that ride your bus?
I don't feel that we get enough training. I think we can always we should always be getting more training. However, my background, I do have a child who has special needs. So I've grown up with a child who's autistic. So one of those things that helps me get down to the level of my children that ride my bus that have behavioral issues or any type of autistic needs. But I think we always can use more training. I think with bus drivers who don't have that personal experience, I think we can always use more training.
You know, I think part of that is that it costs the bus company time to train you, right?
Okay.
Because you're on the clock. And then this, but the school district has to be willing, when negotiating the contract every year, to build in the right number of hours. So you know, everyone has to be in on this. School districts have to be aware that there's a cost involved, but there's also a huge benefit. And so build it into the contract. And then the burden shifts to the bus company to actually provide the training. I know a lot of school districts will say, we'd be happy to send a guidance counselor, a principal, an assistant principal, whomever, a special educator down to do that training with you to help out. I love when we do those kind of collaborations. I think that makes it makes for a more effective, you know, couple hours together for sure. So, okay, thank you.
Mike, I would add with the district, you know, the biggest thing for a driver is to know an IEP, working with, you know, our special ed team. And I know Amanda and I have been talking with them, and once they know that, they know kind of how to handle themselves around that special needs child, so.
Yeah, great. Go ahead.
Mike, no, I just want to agree with that as well. I mean, I think if we know a little bit, I mean, I don't want to know everything about an IEP, but I think if we know what triggers a student, meaning, you know, what if they don't like change, if change is a big part of their of an issue, we need to know about that. And I feel that whatever is happening in the morning on a bus needs to also be communicated to the teachers and school, as well as when the students come back on our bus and when we're taking them home.
Yeah. What did Jason say at the beginning? It's kind of a village.
Yes, it takes a village to raise these kids.
Sharing that information is, like you said, there are limits to the information that can be shared, but
Yes.
effectively something as generic as this kid freaks out when there's change.
Yes.
That's something the bus drivers should know. And I think the orientation from the school district should be, how do we set the bus drivers up for success and eliminate surprises and things like that. So thank you. I appreciate that. Okay, Steve, we're gonna go back to you. How do you encourage bus drivers to engage with students beyond simply enforcing rules? Are there some strategies that you promote to create friendly, welcoming environment on the bus?
Well, I think one of the things I've learned in the 7 years I've been doing this is that every grade level, every age group level is a little bit different in how you're going to manage them. For example, I have a young lady named Eliana. She's a first grader, doesn't want to sit down, has trouble sitting down, wants to be standing up. So what I did is I enlisted the services of Ella and Allie, two of her dear friends that she loves to hang with on the bus. And I said, you know, you guys are a little bit older. Can you help me out? Can you make sure that Eliana is sitting down when she wants to talk to you guys? And so far, so good. When I'm driving the high school route, that's a whole different can of worms. Most of them just basically want to be left alone to talk to them. You know, sometimes they just, what are you doing? Why are you talking to me? So in that respect, I respect their space. Today, for example, we had the emergency evacuations, and I made my announcement, and I said, this is the procedure, this is how we're going to do it. And I got all done, and I said, and I thank you for your time. Well, I got a couple of smiles out of it. You know, if I can yank a little smile out of them, I think I've accomplished some good. So all in all, one other thing that I've done over the years is if I'm aware of a student who's performing in a play, little Yvonne was the mayor, a fourth grader, and he was an actor in a play by the Sun Prairie Community Theater Group. I went and watched him, and I'll tell you what, pretty impressive group, seeing these kids act. And once the word got out, oh, gee, Mr. Steve came to a performance, everybody kind of got enthused about that, you know, that you're able to see one of these students outside of the bus. So I know the question is enforcing rules and promoting environment inside the bus, but I think it can extend outside the bus also.
That's great stuff. You have to be sort of an amateur sociologist to understand these kids and their different ages. I remember at old elementary, or well, back then it was a K-8 school. This guy had been a principal for like 35 years, old timer. He's long since retired, but he told me that understanding the difference in ages of kids, I think he said, like if you have a kid at home, and the parents go away, and parents go away for the weekend and they leave their kid at home. That's the scenario. So the sixth grader, if you leave your sixth grader at home alone, the sixth grader will clean the house. The seventh grader will destroy the house. The eighth grader won't know that you left. And I thought, yeah, that pretty much sums up the difference. All these ages are really different and really challenging. So that's just great. Hey, I want to ask, I'm gonna go off script here before we move on. Because somebody put this question in the chat and I thought it was a good one. This is one of the reasons I'm not a bus driver, because I think I'd want to get out of the bus and go punch somebody. How do you deal with, I mean, what strategies have you got going in your community or on your routes to deal with the sort of the clueless motorist who doesn't respect the 20-foot zone, doesn't respect the stop sign, tries to, for God's sake, pass on the right, or other just behaviors that make you must shake your head if you're behind the wheel when you see some of these things. What do you do about it? How do you just shrug your shoulders? Because it seems like that doesn't do any good. What can you do to begin to get some better behaviors in your community? I'm going to just throw that one open to anybody, and then we can go from there.
You can answer that. When
Go ahead.
I started driving bus in La Crosse, they had an ordinance that the police could not issue a ticket for anybody that passed the school bus displaying stop at the red lights. So I went to all the aldermen in the city and the mayor and showed them all the information and gave them a whole spiel about what could happen to the student, what could happen to anybody. And the city council in exchange voted to allow the city of La Crosse to give a ticket to anybody.
Wow, that's not easy to get a law passed like that. So compliance, right? I'm sure that gets people's attention. Any other strategies? Anything else you guys get any other examples of how you've dealt with this?
We work with the town of Campbell here in La Crosse, which is out on French Island, and there are some instances where they will actually follow our bus to help catch the red light runners. They post on their Facebook page, you know, they try to get it out to the community as much as possible to explain the importance of, you know, stopping for those stop signs and our lights.
Great.
Simon, in Sun Prairie, isn't there an initiative going on with running the stop arm? I know I've seen certain things out in the community, but wondered if you could speak to that a little more.
The situation as far as running the stop sign in Sun Prairie is critical. It's terrible. And you know, we have both Sun Prairie and DeForest right next door. And if we turn in a red light violation, DeForest is right on it. They ask for video if they can get it. It goes to court, they get a ticket. Sun Prairie is completely the opposite. And we've met with the police department here. I've been on TV talking about it. They've cited staff shortages, etc. We got a report. We were curious a couple of years ago. We got a report, and we had turned in 145 red light violations over the course of the school year to Sun Prairie, and they had issued one citation, and that citation had been thrown out of court. And one of the reasons they cited for not bothering to issue citations is that the judge here routinely dismisses them. So it's a serious problem in Sun Prairie. We've done what we can. We've met with the police department. And I say I've been on channel 15 and channel 27 talking about it. I filled it on a route yesterday, and somebody ran the red lights. It's absolutely out of hand here.
Well, you know, I don't know uh, how to deal with the differences in individual communities. But I do know that WASBO and maybe some of the other statewide organizations, um, I think it's just been the advent of digital recording. We've become so much more aware of it. And there's, if you're not a driver like me, when you actually see a video of somebody blowing past you, it's really that kind of makes the light bulb go on. I think we've got a lot of work to do in driver education. And I know we can reach our parents, but our parents usually aren't the problem. So anyway, I appreciate those stories. And if nothing else, we can at least leave it here that it is a major problem. And it really should be a coordinated effort. And it's certainly on WASBO's radar. Okay, so let me get back to a few more issues that are just sort of day-to-day issues on the bus. If I can change gears here, how's that for a bus-related transitional comment? I should that was worthy of like Radio Hall of Fame there, wasn't it? Okay, we're changing gears. This is for Jeff and Amanda. When faced with disruptive behavior on the bus, how do you handle the situation in a way that maintains respect while still enforcing the rules? What kind of follow-up is done through the district or through the school? And that's
I know through Go Right Way and Amanda, we used to do bus write-ups where we would do paper copies and then they'd send them over and we would transfer them to the principal. And it became a real challenge, just a lot of paperwork and paper trails. So we laid out a QR code. And so the drivers can scan the QR code and put in there, what little Johnny or Susie might have had an issue with. And then it gets sent to the principal and myself. And then we follow up on what actions the principal has done. Little Johnny might have had to clean the cafeteria for a little bit, help out a custodian, or if it's severe, little Johnny might be off the bus for a little bit. And then mom and dad get notified also. But the QR code is really quick, really fast, and it makes it easier for the driver to come in and scan it instead of trying to write everything down. Amanda, I don't know, is there?
That's great. I've never heard of that before. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's definitely a good program because it's nice that the driver can fill it out right away and it gets sent to the principal right away, so they're notified, and can hopefully handle it that morning. Some other things that our drivers do on the buses, when it comes to disruptive behaviors, sometimes we have to pull over. That sense of pulling over and them sitting there seeing that we're sitting there waiting. All I gotta do is sit in the driver's seat, pull over the bus, and they're like, wait, why is the bus not moving? And that kind of gets their attention. And then they start asking you the question, why isn't the bus moving? And you tell them, hey, in order for safety to be top priority, you guys got to stay in your seats or whatever the case may be, to get their attention. And, then they start following the bus rules and then you can continue on to the route.
Thanks. Yeah, I couldn't help but maybe we've got time. I got to tell you one quick story. When I was in Pewaukee, it was a smaller district. Pewaukee is in Waukesha County, and it's unique in that all the schools are on one single campus. Even though the district now is, I think, maybe 2,800 students, they're all on one single central located campus. And I was driving to work one day, and right in front of me was a bus, and it had some 3rd and 4th grade boys on it, and they were screwing around in the back. And one of them decided to flip me off. He didn't know who I was. He just decided what the heck. He's showing off for his friends. And then when it was both hands, he was really showing off good. And then I think he started to become aware that every time the bus turned heading towards campus, I was turning with it. And then the behavior kind of toned down a little bit. And then it toned down a little bit more. And then the bus pulled up in front of the elementary school. And of course, I pulled up right behind it. And when that kid got off the bus, I was like, young man, why don't you come with me? We're gonna go see your teacher. Who's your teacher? And we marched down the hallway. And in that district, I felt like the principals plural, were very responsive to supporting the drivers. When the driver said, look, this kid's out of line, the school district reacted. Later in my career, when I was in Madison, if the driver called out a student's bad behavior, this is a bit of an exaggeration, but not much. The family would show up with their attorney that afternoon looking to fire the bus driver. It was like the key here is that school districts, you cannot subcontract the responsibility for managing these kids, right? You own that. You own that behavior, and you are only, it's only going to be as good as the school district's effort to be a good partner, right? So I think when bus drivers go to the effort to report something, they're doing it for a reason, and it's on the school district to react appropriately and follow up. And I hope and I trust that most of them do. They do it in different ways, but hopefully they all are paying attention. So, okay, I got a question for Bob. What have you learned from your interactions with students over the years, and how has it impacted or maybe changed your approach to driving over the years? Are you the same? Do you have the same approach that you had when you started?
Definitely not. When I first started driving, you find out a lot of the students have come from broken homes and have a lot of issues. And you start listening to them. They in turn want you to talk to them. And early in my career, I found out there was a couple students that came from broken homes that they would sit right behind me all the time. And they would talk to me, and one of them asked me to go to one of their flag football games. So I showed up at the game, and the principal of the school was there and everybody. And all of a sudden, they went to the championship game. And I was probably the most proudest person of all of them. And it taught me to really take a look at what they do and how they act. It changed my whole image from I gotta get them there to I gotta get them there safely and know that they're gonna be okay.
Oh, great story. I love that. Anybody else want to talk about how their view has changed over time? Steve, you kind of hinted at it earlier. One of my favorite TV shows is Ted Lasso. There's an episode where he says, it's if you've watched Ted Lasso, it's the season 1 last episode. It's the dartboard scene, and the key line in it is, be curious, not judgmental. Be curious, right? Like, why is this person behaving this way? It's amazing. First of all, it's a great scene, and it's a heck of a dartboard contest, and that line just kills it. Be curious, not judgmental. I think we all slip into judging right away, and I think, yeah, the more we're around these kids, the longer we, as we mature, I think we naturally become a little more curious and not so quick to judge, which is great. Okay, I'm going to move on to the question about, okay, this is mostly about relationships. So this is Amanda and Jeff again. Are there initiatives, or we use the word here incentives in this question, but I don't think we mean like literal incentives like money or anything. But are there ways that you have to recognize drivers who go above and beyond in building relationships with kids? Do you have a way of holding those folks up as sort of everyday heroes?
Yeah, what we do in our monthly safety meetings is we mention them out. So if we get like a kudos from one of the schools for like a field trip or a bus route, we'll print off the email, we'll read it in our safety meetings, and then we post it up on our board in our break room for all the drivers to be able to read too. We've also had the district, Jeff is really good at it when we get comments from the schools or from the principals, he'll come over and actually, meet with that driver and thank that driver in person as well too.
Oh, that's great.
I would say on the district side, knowing what these drivers go through, when I first started this, I thought it would be real good for me to ride the bus and check what they go through. And boy, did I get an education. I
Did
see
you?
what they were dealing with, how loud it can be, how crazy it can be, what the names are said, and it gave me a respect, more respect for them. And so when they go above and beyond, I do come over and I tell them each and individually that we appreciate every bit of it. So,
That's great. I wonder how many school administrators have been on been on the bus too. And take the whole ride. That's that's the most authentic learning you could possibly get. Anything else on driver and rewards and recognition? I've got a quick one. I turned on the news one morning when I was getting ready for work, and there was a story. This was in the Milwaukee media market. It was about a bus driver in Oconomowoc. Again, it was then called Oconomowoc Transport. I think it's Go Right Way now. And the story was about this woman who was I don't know, maybe around middle-aged, been bus driving for about 10 years. And she would find out something about each of the kids. And then apparently she was like a knitting or crochet expert, and she would knit or crochet something related to something about that kid, whether if it was a football player, they get something shaped like a football. Anyway, they interviewed her on TV and she was fantastic. She represented everything you guys are talking about today about getting to know the kids as kids and not just as passengers, right? Fantastic stuff. Um, um, Bob, if you're ready to start learning crochet and knitting, there might still be an opportunity, for you to cash in on that. You're you're never too late to learn. The key is don't crochet while driving. I think it's probably we should probably point that out too. So, okay, this last one, if you guys have the answer to this, I will be very impressed because everyone's been struggling with this one. So what are districts and contractors doing that works to identify and hire good drivers? What advice would you give, as current driver to help, recruit some folks into the field? What do you think? I guess I'm going to start with Amanda and Jeff again.
The one thing that we do here at Go Right Way is we offer a child ride-along policy. So if there's a mom that stays at home with their kiddos, they can come on board and the student or their kids can ride the bus along with her.
Okay.
We also do all onboard training, so paid training to get their CDL. So we break it down to where we have them come in, study for their CDL, and they're paid for that portion all the way through until they're actually holding that CDL.
That's great. And has that helped you with that segment of the market? Have you gotten a few moms who otherwise couldn't drive for you?
Yes and no. It's definitely helped. We actually just hired a new female driver who has a child at home, and so she brings her little daughter with her for the bus route. So it helps definitely. But it's not that full-on push that we all need.
Maybe you can answer this for me, or maybe Jeff can comment on it. One of the things I worry about is when there's a real shortage, and I mean a chronic shortage of drivers, that the district expects X number of routes to be run timely and predictably every day. So that puts great pressure on the contractor to staff up appropriately. And in order to staff up, my worry is that you might have to go a little farther down the quality spectrum and hire somebody that maybe in a different labor market you just said no, we're not going with that person. How do you deal with that? From an HR standpoint, my fear is that you lower your standards, and I really hope that you don't. And I'm wondering if you've ever had to have that conversation in your office.
Yeah, unfortunately we've had. individuals that have come on board with us, gone through the training process and learned everything, thought they were going to be a really good, decent driver, and then ended up running into, some safety issues, whether it be speeding or unfortunately accidents, and it's definitely a tough conversation to have, and then you think about that for the next candidate that comes on board and, how can we do better? What are things that we can look for, in that individual to make sure that we don't have that happen again.
Yeah, when I was a business manager, I swear I'd rather have you come back to me and say, we can't fill it. Let's do something with the routes before hiring somebody that, that we'd all regret hiring. It's never actually been the problem never surfaced really for me, but it's always one that I worried about. It's just such a tough labor market, and it's tough in all the support staff areas for bus contracts, certainly tough in the school districts to find playground supervisors and custodians and clerical staff, food service staff. I guess it's just the nature of the economy. I'm not an economist, I don't understand it, but sure is tough to to find and keep good people. So whoever's in charge of your recruiting, make sure you give that person a big pat on the back, right? So you guys have been offered some really interesting insights, some things I've been doing this a long time. So whenever I hear something new, it's always kind of it's a welcome surprise. And I picked up a few little tidbits here. I guess that's why we call it transportation tidbits, right, Caitlin?
I know, it's your favorite phrase.
It is. Do we have anything from the chat or from the Q&A that we need to address?
We do. I have a kind of a two-part one. So for Amanda and Jeff, and Simon, if you do these monthly kind of safety meetings, what kind of topics and speakers do y'all bring in for those monthly meetings?
Well, I can speak to this as we just had a safety meeting this morning. We actually try to make it more interactive with our drivers instead of me just standing in front of them and lecturing them about a topic. So this month we decided to take 3 of our school buses. I had our mechanics go through. We printed off Where's Waldo and we stuck them all over for pre-trips. And then we also had our mechanics go through and disassemble some things to see if the drivers would actually catch it in that pre-trip that they're supposed to be doing. Ooh. It was actually really good. Had a lot of positive feedback on it. The drivers were excited that they didn't have to sit and just listen to me lecture them. So it was nice. It was very beneficial. Definitely a good insight for the drivers too.
And I would say on the district side of it, we do PBIS training, so we'll come every year, we'll sit with all the drivers, go through them and do that training, but then also take that bus and go to the school. And then once they are at school, we'll bring them back out and put them back on the bus, explain bus etiquette, the safety of sitting down, not jumping around. One of the things that we did this year that I felt was really good, Amanda and I talked about meet your bus driver. And so we did this aside of PBIS. We brought these drivers to the schools. They at elementary only, and they would get out of the bus. They were talking to all the kiddos, letting them know, what they like, what their favorite color was, what kind of car they were driving. They were just asking, all these kids were asking just different questions. And, that's all about connection. And we felt like that was something we needed to do. And it turned out to be really good. The kids even did chalk and thanked the bus driver on the ground, the sidewalk, and so we got pictures with all of that. So
that's really sweet. And as drivers, what topics would you like to see kind of ongoing training on, whether it's throughout each school year or like on, just every once in a while? What would you like to see trainings on for all drivers?
Yeah, I guess as a driver, I sit in on all these meetings that Amanda and Jeff do with us, and I think the disruptive students and how to handle it, and how to speak to them, and talk to them about choices. And I was in law enforcement for a lot of years, so I think I can come down with pretty authoritative voice. And sometimes all I have to do is look in the mirror and clear my voice, And the students look up and they realize, okay, I'm doing something I probably shouldn't be doing. And then other times you might have to pull that bus over and calmly explain, okay, these are the reasons why. If you're jumping around the bus and a car pulls out in front of me, you're gonna come visit me up through the windshield pretty fast and you're gonna get hurt. So
Yeah.
talking about some of those things and just relaying it to a kid's point of view is this isn't just rules, and I'm not just being an authoritative figure just because I can. But teaching them why we're doing those types of things. And one thing I always tell my students is number one goal I have is to get you to and from your location safely. And the more times I'm looking in the mirror to see what disruptive behavior is going on behind me, the less time I'm watching the road, which could lead to an accident. And then sometimes just sitting down with those students and saying, okay, these are some of my options that I have. You know, I can stop bus, pull over, I can rate you up, get it through the school district, which generates a lot of paperwork for not only Jeff, but the principals and the teachers. And then if we need to go so far, sometimes just mentioning I can contact mom and dad. And they kind of, their eyes get real big and they're like, wow, okay, my bus driver could call my mom and dad. I don't want that. Because if ultimately they end up, you know, showcasing significant negative behavior, now all of a sudden they're kicked off the bus and mom and dad aren't too happy because now that takes them away from the work and getting other children and family to the schools that they need to. So, you know, teaching them that riding the bus is a privilege and you don't want to do something to get yourself kicked off. And sometimes it's talking to those students as a group, and I've apologized. I've stood up before and apologized and said, you know what? I thought I had middle school and high school students on the bus. I thought you guys knew what the rules were. It's my fault for not telling you. So we're gonna go over the rules of the bus now and my expectations. And I take some of that blame upon myself, even though it's their behavior. But kind of giving them an outlook that I'm not just pointing fingers at them, that we're in this together and we can work together. And usually that helps turn the bus around and, you know, make it a positive environment for the students. And I think sometimes they just need a reminder, you know, they're not mentally engaged to the point that we are as adults in understanding what those choices are and what those behaviors might be and ultimately what those consequences are. But if you can kind of remind them and kind of steer them in the right direction, as I said before, it takes everybody to help push these kids in a positive direction. And as Bob said earlier, you know, a lot of these families come from broken families and, you know, it can be a tough home life. And if we can make that bus ride more positive and show them that, okay, you know, if you show positive behavior, it's going to be a positive experience for you. So there's a lot of things that I've learned just in a few years, and I think we can continue learning. And I appreciate the opportunity to sit here in front of all of you and share some of my experiences and continue learning. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. That was great.
Simon, you went off mute. Did you have anything that you wanted to say on that topic?
Well, just to back up real quick, as far as lowering the bar, I think it's very important that all of us remember not to do that. I can tell you that there was a large school district near us that lowered the bar years ago. They succumbed to that. An example would be when you decide to go away from yellow and black vehicles and more to you know, smaller vehicles that don't require a CDL, don't require a FedMed, you're lowering the bar. And that has happened. We are not going to do that. As far as kids and the training they get, we at each safety meeting in both Sun Prairie and DeForest, for sure, we have a faculty member comes and talks to them, and they talk about behavior on the bus and expectations. The first couple of times we did it years ago, the business manager came and she was lucky she got out alive. The drivers were ready to literally throw things at her because the frustration was that, well, why even bother? Because you people never do anything about it. But as she was able to kind of explain what they go through, our drivers were able to have more empathy for her. At the same time, by her listening to what our drivers deal with every day, she got more on our side. So getting these school people to actually come and talk with the drivers on a regular basis is huge. It's worked in DeForest, it's worked in Sun Prairie, and I would really push every school district to do that.
Yeah. I totally agree with that, Simon. You always tell the business officials, you're not subcontracting the responsibility. You're still in it. You just have a partner helping you, but you still own it, right? You're still really responsible. Parents aren't going to let you off the hook. You can't say, well, it wasn't our fault. The bus company did it. That doesn't help anybody, right? So I totally agree. School district folks need to be deep into this work. So thank you for pointing that out. I also want to tell you that every time I think I've ever interviewed a transportation person, they've always had a map in the background, and you did it. Congratulations. You kept
Absolutely.
it going, or a Packer helmet, sometimes both. Caitlin, we're starting to run out of time, but I just want to wrap up with one comment, and then I'm going to leave it to you. We started out at the beginning saying, that our number one responsibility, all of us collectively, is to make sure that we bring these kids to school ready to learn, warm, safe, and dry. And that's been a big theme throughout this conversation. I've really enjoyed it. And again, I want to end by thanking everybody for participating. Is there anything else that I need to do in terms of like official announcements, or do you want to go for the wrap up?
I think that the only kind of pressing question that was dropped in the chat at this point, for coming from the contractors and the bus drivers, what topics would you like to see offered to school districts as like for their education in the transportation realm of things? What do business managers and transportation coordinators need to know?
Well, I'm going to take that one just because I was a business manager forever. It's mostly a matter of your own imagination. You have to recognize that you are very much responsible for this work. Your work does not end when you sign the contract with the bus company. It just starts there. And being in it, meeting regularly, problem solving, showing up for trainings, bringing Kringle during holiday week. There's a million other things you can do. It's just a matter of deciding that you want to do it well and that it's important enough for you to spend some time on. If you get that through your head, the rest of it will take care of itself. So, all right, you guys, this has been a blast. I've really enjoyed this. I think we're going to sign off here. I want to thank everybody for joining us today. I want to certainly thank our panelists, and we'll see you all down the road, as they say in the transportation biz.
Yes, evaluation link is in the chat, and we'll also go out via email. Make sure that you mark your calendar for our next Transportation Tidbits webinar on December 4th. We'll be having Renew Wisconsin to talk about some renewable energy initiatives within the transportation realm. Thank you, everybody.
Bye, everybody.